Hello, how can I help you?
Hey, what are the checkout procedures for the Airbnb house?
Okay, here are the checkout procedures for your stay. Place all trash in the outdoor bins. The gray bin is for regular trash, and the blue bin is for recycling. And lastly, no need to strip beds or start laundry. The cleaning service will handle this. Do you have any other questions?
Nope, that's it. Thank you. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to set up an AI voice RAG agent, just like the one I was interacting with. Now I'm going to start out by defining what a RAG agent actually is, and then I'm going to show you exactly how you can download a free template for this workflow and set this up so you can start interacting with agents through a voice chat. Now, before I get started, really quickly, if you're a business owner looking to use AI agents inside of your business, then schedule a call using the link in the description, and I'll personally answer any questions you might have about this technology, and I'll give you some actionable ways that you can actually leverage AI agents inside of your business. So to define what a RAG agent is actually doing, I found it best to look at this article published by McKinsey and Company here, where in the second paragraph, it states that retrieval augmented generation, also known as RAG, is a process applied to large language models to make their outputs more relevant in certain contexts. So basically what this is saying is that a large language model is trained on a certain set of information, and that certain set of information is what it uses to formulate its responses. However, we are using a large language model to access another set of information. In this case, the example I'm using is a set of information regarding an Airbnb property. So it has a giant document of Airbnb information about the Airbnb property, and the large language model actually references that information before formulating a response. So to get started building this, go down to the link in the description where you can get access to the free template for this workflow. Once you've gotten that JSON file, we're going to head over to a website called n8n.io, where you're going to create an account or log in if you already have one. Once you log in, you'll be brought to this overview page. And to get started, we're going to go up to the top right and select to create a new workflow. And then since you have that JSON file or the template that I linked down below, click these three dots, select import from file, and just select that file that you just downloaded. So now you should have a workflow that looks something like this. You can see here on the left side, we have a trigger for a webhook. Again, this is accessing the ElevenLabs platform to interact with this agent through a voice chat. So if we open up this, you can see that we have a webhook URL, we have a test URL, and the production URL. Just for the purpose of this, we're going to be using the test URL. I'll show you what to do with this in just a second. The method is going to be a post request. It gives us the path name here, and then we're going to leave authentication to none, and then respond using webhook node. So to get started with this, we're going to go over to a platform called ElevenLabs. You can see ElevenLabs.io. Then we can create an account or log in here. So I'm going to log in, and I'm brought to this homepage here. So what I can start by doing is going under the products section here, go to conversational AI, select agents, and then we can actually add an agent and start creating the agent here. So you're going to add a name for it, add a blank template, and then we can select create an agent. So here under this agent tab, we can change the language, add additional languages. We can add a first message. So I'm going to keep it pretty simple and just say, hello, how can I help you? Then we have a system prompt here. So I'm actually going to copy a system prompt for the agent that I was using earlier, and I'll walk you through a little bit of what it is saying and why I've added it. So this is the system prompt that I was using inside of the agent at the beginning of this video. So here I'm giving it some information as to what it's actually doing. Just saying you're an assistant helping an Airbnb guest at an Airbnb and providing accurate, helpful information about the location. So you should listen to the guest question, understand their intent, and then use the N8N tool to query an Airbnb database. This will make more sense in just a minute, as we have to add a tool inside of this ElevenLabs agent to query or to get information from the N8N workflow. So then after receiving the response from N8N, provide the guest with a clear, concise answer based on the retrieved information. So we're just telling it what it's doing, and then we're saying to use the N8N tool get the information you need, and then respond to the guest. Here we're just saying, maintain a friendly, helpful tone, use filler words just to make it sound more natural. And then here I was having some issues with it actually interrupting itself, so it would be halfway through responding with, in my example, was the checkout procedures, and it would just interrupt itself and say, okay, now I'm going to look at the database and see the checkout procedures, and then it would continue with the actual checkout procedures like it was doing before. So I had to edit the system prompt where I said, don't repeat the question back to the guest, instead give a concise answer. You should never reference a database. Instead, just respond as if you know the information, basically. And then here, you just use the tool and respond with the answer. And then here, I gave it more information. Maintain a consistent flow in your response. Don't interrupt yourself with saying something else. So this bottom part was just me kind of fixing the issues that I was having with the agent actually responding. So as you interact with it, it might not respond correctly, so you can edit this system prompt here to get whatever responses you're looking for. So next we have the option to add some variables. Select the large language model. I just left mine as the default Gemini 2.0 Flash. You can edit the temperature here. This, you can see the definition is just how risky, I guess, it will be with actually its responses. So you can change it. The higher the temperature, the more random or creative it will be in its responses, and the lower the temperature, the less random. I just left it at 0.5, which is the default. Then you can edit the token usage here. The knowledge base, so you can actually add knowledge base documents and use RAG inside of ElevenLabs directly. However, I'm going to show you inside of N8N, so we can actually create more complex workflows inside of N8N when we're actually using these. Then up next, we have the tools section. So you can see it starts with this default tool here called end call. This I'm just going to delete, and then we can add another tool. This tool we're going to add is for N8N. So we're going to select custom tool here, select the webhook, and then we can name that tool. So since in the system prompt I referenced the tool N8N, I'm going to call this tool N8N. So depending on what you call this tool, here you're going to change the system prompt to whatever you've named it. Then we're going to give a description for this tool. So for my example is going to be, use this tool to access a database information. So in my case, it's just referencing N8N to get the database information on the Airbnb property. The method is going to be changed to post. We're going to send a post request to N8N at the URL, which the URL is the one that I showed you earlier, the test URL or the production URL. So for now, we're going to use this test URL, but once you change this workflow inside of N8N to active, you're going to want to change the production URL. You're going to paste the production URL in here. However, we're just going to use the test one for now. So you just click to copy that URL. We can paste that in there. And I believe we can leave everything else the same except for body parameters. So we need to enable this body parameter here. The description is going to be ask the user something like this, that gives them kind of an instruction of the agent, an instruction of what it should actually be getting the information for. Property, we're going to add a property here, set to string. The identifier in this case is going to be the question that the guest wants to know the answer to. Set this to required. I set this to LLM prompt. The description is going to be question from the user or the guest in this case. And then that is it for the tool here. So we can click add tool, and you can see it fills in that N8N tool there. And then that is all we need. So make sure you click save. On ElevenLabs, you need to save your work, otherwise it will disappear. So now that we've set up the agent inside of ElevenLabs, we can go back to N8N here. I'll walk you through the rest of this workflow inside of N8N. Open up this agent here. We can look at this prompt very quickly. So not many tools, it's only the vector index here. You have access to the following tools: the vector index containing information about the Airbnb location. Then we say the guest wants to know, and then this is the question, which is sent from the AI agent inside of ElevenLabs. So that was the tool, the body parameter, and then the question there. So you can see body.question, that's the one we just added. So if you edit, this identifier might be different depending on what you just called it. So you're going to want to adjust this variable here by just adjusting this. You should still have added it inside the body. So json.body will remain the same, and then just change the identifier to whatever you've called it inside of ElevenLabs here. So you can also test this. Just click test up here, or listen for test event. You can chat with it, and then it will fill in the input section here with the variables, I guess, that is receiving from ElevenLabs. Pretty simple system message down here. We're just saying you're an assistant helping Airbnb guests, contributing to them having a positive stay. Nothing too complicated. You can edit this depending on what you're using this for. Next, we are using OpenAI chat model. I'll walk you through creating and connecting your account here really quickly. You just look up OpenAI API. I'm just going to click on this overview here. Might have to log in, but we're going to go to dashboard, go to the left side, go to API keys, make an API key. So create new secret key, ask you to name it. Don't share the secret key with anybody. It's directly linked to your OpenAI account. But we're going to copy that secret key, go back to N8N, click create new credential, paste in the API key there. You can leave everything else here blank. Click save, and that will connect to your account. So once you've done that, I think we'll have to add something like $5 to the account, and that will last you a very long time. But so after you've connected your OpenAI account here, we can actually start taking a look at this Pinecone vector store, which is containing all the information for the Airbnb property. So to do this, I'm going to head over to a platform called Pinecone, pinecone.io. Create an account or log in if you already have one. So my account brings me to a page that looks like this. You might go to get started, but what we're going to do is go to database, go to indexes, and then we can create a new index in here. So here we can just enter a name for it. The configuration, we're going to select OpenAI text embedding 3 small. Scroll down, we can leave it to serverless. Leave everything here that's already filled in. Create index. You can see it's initializing down here. And then you can see that we don't have any data currently in our index. So what we want to do is we can open up a new tab for N8N. And we are going to select create a workflow. And this will bring us to an open editor. So the first step we're going to add is a trigger manually. The next step is going to be a Google Drive step. So I'm going to type Drive, Google Drive, and we want to download a file. Here you're going to need to connect your Google Drive account. And to do that, we need to create a Google Cloud project. So bear with me here, this is not too bad. But what we're going to do in order to get this client ID and the client secret is we need to click Open Docs at the top of the page here. The prereq, create a Google Cloud account. So we're going to click Google Cloud. And then we are going to click Console at the top right here. You can see that is the current project I'm actually on right now. But what you want to do is click at the top left here. It has the projects. So I have several here. But you're going to create a new project. We're going to name that. So I'm just going to call it Video Example. You might want to call it N8N Connection or something like that. Organization. I think we just leave as no organization. Select create, and you can see here it's creating that project for us. So then once it's created, we're going to select the project. Make sure that is filled in here on the top left. And then we can go to these three lines right here for the menu. Go down to APIs and services. Go down to OAuth consent screen. So click on OAuth consent screen. You can click get started here. And then we're going to name this app. So I'm just going to call it video example again. You might want to call it innate in connection, something like that, so you know what it is. Support email, it's going to add my email there. Select external, click next. Again, I'm just going to add my email. Select next again, agree, continue, and then create. So next thing, you'll be brought to this page like this with the metrics and the project checkup. We're just going to go over to the right side and select create OAuth client. Application type is going to be web application. The name, I'll just name it innate-in. And then we actually need to add an authorized redirect URL. So click add URL, and you might have noticed when we opened up that page inside of innate-in, this Google Drive connection, it gives us the OAuth redirect URL. So click on this and it will copy it to your clipboard. We can go over here and we can just paste it in there. Select create, click OK. And now we have an OAuth client here. So I'm going to click on this client and it will bring me to a page with this additional information. So this gives us the client secret, or the client ID here, and then the client secret here. So you're going to copy both of these and you're just going to paste them in to innate-in for the client ID and the client secret. And then we're going to go back to the Google Cloud here. And then at the top here, we have a search bar. So I'm going to type search Drive. And then you can see the search result. We get the Google Drive API. I'm going to click on that. Click enable. And then you can see that it is actually enabled. So we have the option to disable it, which we don't want to do, but that has now been enabled. The next thing we're going to do is search Docs. So you can see we get the Google Docs API. Click on that and then enable that API as well. What this allows it to do is it allows anything with that client ID and the client secret, which in this case is going to be our innate-in connection. It allows innate-in to actually access our Google Drive and our Google Docs, which is what we want for this example. You might not actually have to enable Google Docs, but that will help you later if you are using a Google Doc. But once you've pasted in the client ID and the client secret, you can click save. I'm just going to close out of this as I already have my account connected. And then what we are left with is the resource we're going to use as a file. The operation is going to be download. And then the file, we're going to select the file. So you can see mine is currently not working. If you ever get this, go up to your credential here and you can select this little pencil looking icon. And you can see my account says connected. However, I'm just going to reconnect it. And when you're reconnecting it, you just sign in with Google like it does here. Oops. So I'm going to sign in, select the Gmail account I want to connect. Make sure you click continue. And then it will pop up with a list of things to access. So in this case, it's just Google Drive accessing it. Just go to select all for that. And you can see it wants innate-in cloud to access the following things. Allow access, click continue. And then you can see we get this connection successful screen, which will close in just a second. And now you can see we get this green account has been connected. I'm going to close out of that now. And we should be able to select our file. There we go. So I believe the doc I had created is Oceanside Retreat Guest Guide. So if I go to my Google Drive, I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see I just had this document generated from, I believe it's Claude, but This is just a fake Airbnb location, and it contains things like the property overview, check-in information. You can read through the rest of these. Just a document containing information about the house that we actually want this agent to reference. So depending on the information you want the agent to be referencing, create a Google Doc with all of that information, and then you're going to add that inside of Anyden. So we're going to go over to the second workflow that we were working with earlier. Select the document. We can click out of this step, the Google Drive step. Then we're going to add a step for Pinecone. So Pinecone Vector Store, and we want to add documents to the vector store. So insert documents here, and then our Pinecone index, we actually need to connect our Pinecone account before we can do this. So create a new credential here, and all Pinecone needs is an API key. So if we go to a Pinecone, we can go to the left side here, it says API keys, create a new API key, name it, and then it will give you the value for the actual key. Paste that API key into here, click save, and then that will connect your account. Then we get a list of the indexes that we've actually created. So you probably only have one here, but we are going to select the index that we just created. So mine is vid example in this case. Properties, we can add a property. I'm just not going to do that. So you can add a namespace, which allows it to sort the data, I guess, inside of the vector store. But we're just going to leave this as empty right now. The embedding, we're going to select embeddings OpenAI. We won't have to do anything here. Your account will already be connected, and then it defaults to the text embedding 3 small, which is the index that we created. So if I go back to Pinecone, go to databases, select indexes, select the index that we just created, you can see the embedding model is text embedding 3 small. So that populates in there. We are good there. We're going to add a document here. So the document loader, we're just going to use the default loader. The data type, we're going to select binary. Leave as load all data. Automatically detect, we're just going to leave. So the only thing you have to do is select binary here. You can click out of that, and then we need to add a text splitter here. So I'm going to select recursive character text splitter, and then we can just leave everything in there the same. And now we should be good to go. So I'm going to select save, and then we're just going to select test workflow here at the bottom because it triggers manually. So you can see it gets that file, it downloads it, and then it puts it into the Pinecone vector store here. So once everything has turned green like it has here, then we can go over to our Pinecone vector store. You might have to refresh here, but you can see that the values have actually been added to the vector store. And then we can go back to the original workflow that we were working in before. So this is the voice agent. The Pinecone vector store, I'm going to open up this tool right here. Your account will already be connected. Operation is going to be retrieve documents, and then make sure this is set to as a tool for the AI agent. Should already be in there. The name, this is just giving the tool a name so the agent actually knows what tool it should call here. Then a description for it. So leave these two the same, or you probably have to edit these actually, depending on the information that you're actually passing in. So in my case, it's an Airbnb information store, and then we're finding information about an Airbnb home. So you can edit these depending on the information that you're storing inside of this vector store. Index, we're going to select the index that we just created, so mine is vid example. The namespace here, I'm just going to delete as we already have the default one in there. And then we can start interacting with this agent through the voice chat on ElevenLabs. So I'm going to click respond to the agent, respond with first incoming item, which is just the output from the agent here. So we can click save inside of this workflow. And then we can go back to ElevenLabs. So I have 2 windows open here. I'll go to the video 2 that I just created. make sure everything here is good. We have the tool set up correctly. And then what we want to do when we are actually testing this workflow is, because we have the webhook, we are using the test URL here. We need to trigger this workflow manually. And what that means is we just go down to the bottom here and literally just click test workflow. And you can see it is waiting for the trigger event there, which is the test URL, the webhook trigger. So we're going to go back to the conversational AI and we can actually start chatting with this agent to make sure it's working properly.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hey, what is the address for the Airbnb house?
Okay, the address of the Airbnb is 723 Lighthouse Avenue, Monterey, California 93940. Enjoy your stay. If you have any other questions or need assistance, feel free to ask.
So you can see that if we go into this workflow, it went from the webhook to the agent. It used the chat model to figure out what information it needed to get from the Pinecone vector store. It went to the vector store and retrieved the correct information for the address of the house in this case. And then it went back to the OpenAI chat model here to configure a response. And then it sent that back to the webhook call and made the response inside of ElevenLabs and then responded to us through the voice chat. So you can see here that I got the correct address for the house. You can ask any question on this entire document. And yeah, that is how you set up a voice agent through ElevenLabs, connect it into n8n, add a RAG agent inside of n8n through a Pinecone vector store, and add documents to the Pinecone vector store, and then get the response back through the ElevenLabs voice chat. So if you have any questions regarding these two workflows or just this video in general, drop a comment below and I'm more than happy to help. If you got anything from this video, leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Have a good one.